Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. Good morning and good day, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome respected speakers, delegates, and participants to the International Conference on Computer and Information Sciences, or Iccoins 2020. The Iccoins 2020 conference aims to discover the sustainability impact and challenges of Industry 4.0 with its main pillars such as the Internet of Things, big data analytics, cyber physical systems, and cloud computing on the developments of digital technologies and solutions for sustainable future. Thank you for tuning in to our Iccoins 2020 organized by the Computer and Information Sciences Department UTP and co-organized by the University Tunku Abdul Rahman Utah Perak, Malaysia, Hamdard University Pakistan, and Universitas Muhammadiyah Prof. Dr. Hamka UHamka Indonesia with the theme Sustaining Tomorrow with Digital Innovations. We have received around 150 papers from all over the world, and 75 papers finally have been accepted and will be presented in 4 different tracks throughout these 3 days of conference. The tracks for our conference are computational intelligence, cybernetics, software engineering and applications, and finally, informatics. In this conference, we're going to have 2 prominent speakers as our plenary speakers. They are Datuk T.S. Dr. Haji Amiruddin Abdul Wahab, the CEO of Cybersecurity Malaysia, and Dr. Etiken Kandasamy Karupia, the Director of Developer Ecosystem at NVIDIA Southeast Asia, who will be sharing their insight, knowledge, and wisdom on the most recent innovations and concerns as practical as challenges in the developments of digital technologies and solutions for sustainable futures. During this virtual conference also, you will be able to explore the following features in the virtual Iccoins 2020. First, the virtual exhibition booth where you can actually interact with our exhibitors, the resource gallery where you can download all the materials that have been uploaded onto the platform, virtual tour where you can actually get to know our university better. We also have the integrated gamification functions. Here, we encourage you to be proactive, especially to gain more points. And finally, the live support in using the platform. Please feel free to ask and seek clarifications if you actually have any problems. I hope that in this conference, you'll be able to forge connections, strengthen networks, and gain benefits from the conference. Finally, I would like to say thank you to all the paper presenters and participants. We value your contributions and active participations in this conference. Thank you to our plenary speakers, Datuk T.S. Dr. Amiruddin Abdul Wahab from Cybersecurity Malaysia and Dr. Etiken Karupia from NVIDIA. Our technical sponsors, IEEE Computational Intelligence Malaysian Chapter, our conference co-organizer, Utah, Hamdard University, and UHamka, all the reviewers and the organizing committee members, as well as our postgraduate volunteers who had been working so hard to make this conference a success. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala reward you greatly for your good efforts. Let's be part of one of the largest congress in the world and have an enriching, edifying time in Iccoins 2020 and Iccoins 2020. Thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Aliza, for welcoming remarks. Now, this session is actually para session 1, track 2, which is today, 13th of July, Tuesday. We're going to start 5 p.m. Inshallah, we're going to finish at 1:50 p.m. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Nur Shakira Abdul Aziz, co-chair for today. We do have our chair, Dr. Fazil Hassan. We later will continue to chair from the presenter number 2 and to presenter number 5. So for this presenter number 1, we're going to start with Miss Abir Abdullah Abdul Majid Muhammad from University Technology Petronas with the paper titled Social Influence on the Use of Social Media Towards Environmental Sustainability Awareness in HEI. So now we're going to play the video for presenter number 1.
Hi everyone, this is my research paper for International Conference on Computer and Information Sciences, Iccoins Ps1 R2 2020. My paper titled Social Influence on the Use of Social Media Towards Environmental Sustainability Awareness in Higher Education Institute. Me, the presenter, Abir Abdullah Abdul Majid Muhammad from University Technology Petronas, Malaysia. First of all, I would like to give an introduction to the current problem on our planet Earth, where there are a lot of environmental issues, and it is of a big concern for all human beings because we are living in this planet. And to solve these issues, there have been tries to try and solve these problems. For example, our common future, or what is known as the Brundtland Commission report, which was held in 1987, it was one of the efforts to protect our home, where it is actually a global long-term agenda for change and action to achieve sustainable development. So what is sustainable development? Sustainable development actually is trying to meet our needs at the present without compromising the needs of the future generations. Another effort was done by creating Agenda 21, which is also known as the Earth Summit Strategy to Save Our Planet, which was held in 1992. And it requires, or it did integrate the environment and development concerns together to create a better future for ourselves. So it means we can still develop, but without impacting the environment. So this can be done by all of us. We all together have to work to achieve that. Not a single person or a single nation should do that by its own. And in Agenda 21, one of the main things to think about was to promote education and to raise public awareness regarding the environmental issues and sustainable development. Then later on, there was the Future We Want, which is a United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, which was held in 2012, and it emphasizes on the importance of environmental information dissemination and sharing and raising public awareness regarding environmental issues. Next was the Shaping the Future We Want, which actually was a UN decade of education for sustainable development for the year 2005 to 2014. And in there, they noticed the increase of the use of social media and social network to raise sustainable development awareness, which is going to be a tool what we are going to use in our research. Later was Agenda 2030, which is also had in a conference called Transforming Our World in 2016, and it is a plan of action for another 15 years. Agenda 2030 consists of 17 sustainable development goals, which are again divided into 169 targets. And those goals are actually divided into 3 pillars, that is social sustainability, as shown in the figure, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability, which we are going to focus on. Environmental sustainability actually is trying to meet the resources and services that we need and the future generation, but without compromising the ecosystem or the environment. Okay, so the problem statement for this research, first of all, that awareness of environmental issues is still low in so many countries all over the world. So the reason is to raise awareness regarding environmental sustainability in order to achieve Agenda 2030. One of the Agenda 2030 goals, which is 12.8, it is to ensure that sustainable development, relevant information and awareness regarding sustainable development should be everywhere by year 2030. Social media, on the other hand, is a tool that can be used to share, disseminate information and create awareness. But there is a lack of research on the using of social media in higher education to disseminate information and create environmental sustainability awareness. Moreover, as people may influence each other toward using social media to raise environmental awareness, if of course they believe the importance of the problem. So here the social influence is can be considered as a factor that can affect the use of technology. In our case is social media. So the research objectives are one, to study the impact of social influence on using social media for environmental sustainability awareness in higher education institute, then to evaluate the proposed framework using SPSS and structural equation modeling. From literature review, we can find that environmental sustainability awareness in higher education are usually viewed by sharing information regarding the environment in higher education institute and by providing environmental education. And both of them can be we can use social media for sharing the information and also for environmental for education overall. Coming to the social media, there are theories that study the use of social media. Few of those theories, the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology, or UTAT 1 and 2, and the Technology Acceptance Models, TAM 1 and 2 and 3, Social Network Theory, SNT, and Uses and Gratification Theory, UGT, and other also theories. Our main concern here is going to be with UTAT theory, where we are going to study the factor of social influence, or the impact of social influence as a factor of UTAT on the technology, which is social media. So UTAT considers social influence as a factor that could affect the use of technology, and it defined it as the degree to which an individual receives that important other believes he or she should use the new system. So the proposed research framework as shown in the diagram, we have mainly for hypothesis. The first hypothesis, the social influence impact positively influence the use of social media for sharing of information. That will be moderated by gender and age. Hypothesis 2, the social influence positively influence the use of social media for education. Again, that is also moderated by gender and age. Hypothesis 3, the use of social media for sharing of information positively impact the environmental awareness. The use also hypothesis 4, the use of social media for education, and positively influence environmental awareness. Okay, so the research methodology that we are going to follow in this research, it is a quantitative research, so data will be collected using a questionnaire. Participants are going to be higher education institute stakeholders from Malaysian universities. Simple random sampling is going to be used, and the sample size is going to be around 230. SPSS and structural equation modeling is going to be used to evaluate the framework and to do the analysis. So in conclusion, the core contribution to the global movement to protect our world and achieve sustainable development goals, higher education institutes play an important part in education and increasing awareness. Technologies, on the other hand, can contribute to raising awareness of environmental issues but must be used effectively. So this research intends to study the social influence and the use of social media towards environmental awareness, and so we'll try to contribute towards also achieving sustainability development by 2030. Thank you.
much, Ms. Abir, for the video, the presentation. For audience, you can use your live Q&A button to post any question. So this is the session where we allow you to ask questions to presenter. So I will check the live Q&A. Okay, so far no question posed yet. Let me check the attendees. Is there anyone raise hand? No. Since no question, I will ask Ms. Abir one question. Okay. Okay. From the current research completed now, which is presented just now, appreciate if you can share your future work plan with us. How you want to look further on the current from current research to the future. Okay, please. Okay, yeah, please.
Oh, okay, now you can hear me. Okay, yeah, so this research is actually a part of a bigger research where we are developing a total framework for the higher education institute to use social media for raising environmental sustainability awareness. So as it is a part, so I'm going to continue also with that till we get the bigger picture of the whole framework.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Abir. So we do have one attendee raised hand, Muhammad Irfan Zainal Abidin. First, we need your help. Okay, Muhammad Irfan, you can ask your question. Or you can post at live Q&A. Mr. Muhammad Irfan. Okay. Okay, sorry. I was informed from host, invite but not available. So Mr. Irfan, if you have question, you can always post to the live Q&A. So chair will read for you. So later, after this session finish, maybe Dr. Fazli Hassan can revisit back lah if the additional question later at live Q&A. I think we complete for presenter number 1. Thank you very much, Ms. Abir. So we're going to continue the presenter number 2. So Chair, Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Fazli Hassan will continue to introduce presenter number 2 and to presenter number 5. Thank you, Ms. Abir. Dr. Fazli Hassan, can you check your mic? Sorry, Chair, we seem that your mic having an issue. Can you check? We can't hear you. We still can't hear you, Mr. Dr. Fazli Hassan. Okay, host, I need your help. Okay, sorry for the technical issue. So we're going to continue to introduce presenter number 2. So we're going to play the presenter 2 video. Then presenter number 2 is Miss Tian Lee Lim, okay, from Xiamen University, Malaysia, with the paper title Extended TAM and TTF Model, a framework for the 21st century teaching and learning. So we're going to play the video presenter number 2. Then later we continue for the Q&A. Thank you.
Hi, the title of my presentation today is Extended TAM and TTF Model, a framework for the 21st century teaching and learning. My name is Lim Tian Lee. I'm from School of Electrical and Computer Engineering from Xiamen University, Malaysia. This is my presentation outline. I will start with introductions. After that, I will present you my problem statement, research aim, proposed model, literature review, methodology, proposed future work, and conclusion. Let's start with the introductions. The advancement of ICT has brought changes in our daily life, especially in education sector, and it has led to more challenges. Graduates who have qualification for an occupation may not necessarily have the skills to effectively perform the job and able to satisfy the employer expectations. Students need 21st century skills in order to improve their achievement and promote construction of knowledge that are able to prepare them to be successful in their future careers. 21st centuries are often regarded as creativity skills, critical thinking skills, communications, and collaboration skills. And in Malaysia education blueprint has demands all the higher educations to maximize the use of ICT in teaching and learning process. And hence, e-learning has been widely implemented across the country, especially in private universities in Malaysia. Even though with the wide implementations of using e-learning, however, there are still many issues exist in utilizing the e-learning platform, such as lacking in fully utilized by students, and it is merely just acted as a supporting tools for students. Students were not fully utilizing the e-learning platform. They would just use it, for example, submit their assignment or download lecture notes. Apart from that, the research has shown that it has lack of engagements with one another by using the existing e-learning platform. And research has shown that the use of pervasive tools may offer greater opportunity for delivery and learning. And today, the education has slowly evolved from e-learning to M-learning and to P-learning. Okay, P-learning is also known as pervasive learning. And by using pervasive tools, it's able to increase students' knowledge, easy to use, useful, and efficient. Students have shown that they are ready and interested in using pervasive tools within their formal education. Next, I'm going to show you my problem statement. The first one, despite the advantages that pervasive tools has brought to educations, there are still limited numbers of papers related to the use of pervasive tools. And in the current practice, universities remain widely used of learning management system to face teaching and learning methods. Fully functional learning environments with the integrations of pervasive tools in the classroom is still unclear. And numbers of studies have conducted in the applications of pervasive tools in various fields, except for focus in education context. And lastly, lack of studies has been conducted to assess the factors that can affect user acceptance of pervasive tools in using technology acceptance model and usage in using task technology fit. Hence, these studies aim at developing an integration framework based on technology acceptance models and task technology fit to examine the external factors and usage of pervasive tools in Malaysia higher education. Next, this is my proposed model. So these studies will combine the use of technology acceptance model and task technology fit to hypothesize the positive influence of the external factors. The external factors such as enjoyment, convenience, usefulness, computer self-efficacy, mobility, social influence, and compatibility. Okay, and the usage of pervasive tools in higher education. So it will be using both theories to look into the acceptance of pervasive tools by the higher education students in private university Malaysia, and to look into how the features of the pervasive tools can fit the tasks that the user want to perform in their teaching and learning process. Next is the literature review. Technology acceptance models. It is the most frequent, famous, influential, efficient theory in explain user behavior and to predict the acceptance of technologies. It has been widely used by many researchers and it has proved the reliability. Next is the task technology fit. It is defined as the degree to which a technology assists an individual in performing his or her task. And TTF model believes that users select to use technologies they are able to bring advantages to them, such as improved job performance. While using both models, TTF does not cover user belief and attitudes towards acceptance and technology usage. TTF model believes that users select to use technologies that bring advantages to them, such as improved job performance. TAM is the most used model in investigate user acceptance of technologies. And therefore, with the combinations of both theories are needed to better understand and provide better explanation than each model could provide and explain separately. Next, I'm going to show you my methodology. This research will adopt quantitative research approach. Questionnaire will be distributed through online to students. My target population is undergrad students from private university in Klang Valley, Malaysia. The sampling techniques that uses non-probability samplings, purposive samplings. Participants will be selected based on the purpose of the sample and the needs of the study. Data analysis. The data will be analyzed using structural equation modeling. PLS techniques will be used for the assessments of scale validity and the testing of the hypothesis to examine the relationships between the constructs. Next is the proposed future work and conclusion. Quantitative research methods approach will be adapted to investigate students' acceptance and the usage of pervasive tools. The proposed model will be tested in a selected private university in Malaysia. These studies provide a framework to better grasp of the factors that provide to the acceptance and usage of pervasive tools in developing countries, especially in Malaysia private universities. In pervasive learning environment, it adapts to students' interests, belief, attitudes, preference, goals, knowledge, and experiences to enhance students' creativity, critical thinking, communications, and collaboration skills. These are the references. This is our contact, our email address. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tian Li Lim, for the video presentation. So I'm now opening the session. For those who like to ask question, please type in your question in the live Q&A section. Okay, any question from the audience? Okay, if not, that I have a question, Ms. Lim, because I think it's a very interesting study when you talk about factors into acceptance of pervasive tool in private university. So maybe a quick feedback from you. Is there any differences in terms of the factors if you are talking about different field of study like engineering, computing, non-technical versus technical, and so on?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Is there any difference in terms of the factors for those different field of study? Let's say we are talking about technical field of study versus non-technical, engineering, non-engineering, computing, and so on. So perhaps if you
Oh,
can share a feedback on that.
very
Thank you.
good question. Because this paper was written last year. Yeah, so this year I'm collecting data. So yeah, I'm going to collect my data starting from this month. I have done the preliminary data collections, but that is focused on the engineering. Okay, so I'm going to start my actual data collection process soon. Regardless on the faculty, so probably I will know the results very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So because I think on my part, I'm looking forward to have more insight, especially when we talk about different field of study on how it impact the factors as well. So again, thank you, Ms. Lim, for a really great
Thank
sharing
you.
on your
Thank
research
you.
work.
Thank
So
you.
now we move on to the next presenter. Paper is entitled Barriers to Adoption of Industry 4.0 in Manufacturing Sector. The authors for this paper is Hafiz Mudassir Rahman, Au Yong Hui Ni, Yuan On Chung, and Mubashir Rahman. And this paper will be presented by Dr. Mubashir Rahman. So I pass the floor to Dr. Mubashir, please.
Hello, everyone. I welcome you all to this presentation session. My name is Mubashir Rahman, and I'm from Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Perak, Malaysia. The topic on which I'm going to present today is about the barriers to adoption of Industry 4.0 in manufacturing sector. Let's first discuss about the history and some background. The term Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution was first introduced in 1988, and it was Germany which basically introduced the concept. In different countries, the same concept is denoted or it is represented by different names. For example, in England, it is called as 4IR. In Russia, it is the same similar concept is called as advanced manufacturing. In China, it is called as, or it is known as Made in Chinese 2025, and in Malaysia, it is called as My I 4.0. Now, this concept of Industry 4.0 basically it is a mixture of developing concepts, and it is a combination of different technologies like AI, big data, smart sensors. So the latest technologies they are combined with some evolving or developing concept, and we call this concept as Industry 4.0. This concept revolves around three pillars, which are people, machines, and data. Now, different researchers they have come they came up with the different definitions of Industry 4.0. Like for example, it is called as digitization of production. It is also called as integration of ICT in the industrial environment, or you can. It is also called as a link between cyber physical systems, cloud computing, IoT, and these kind of technologies over there. But regardless of the definition of this Industry 4.0, the main purpose is that how we can achieve higher accuracy and precision with a higher degree of automation. Now, so far, the studies which have been conducted basically they focus more on the technical aspects of the Industry 4.0, whereas the non-technical aspects they were ignored. So, to fill this research gap, this study was basically conducted with the aim of identifying the barrier factors which basically hinder the implementation of Industry 4.0 in the manufacturing sector. So the research question which was formalized is basically what are the important barriers faced by manufacturing sector for the adoption of Industry 4.0. The study was a systematic literature review, which consists of three phases: the planning stage, conducting stage, and the actual the reporting of the result stage as well. So during the planning stage, research question was formalized, which I just mentioned now, and the data sources were finalized. Inclusion and exclusion criteria was set as well. During the actual study, which is called as conducting phase, we checked on the quality of the papers. The studies was selected. The final studies were selected, and finally the results were reported. Now, the data sources which were included in this study were basically Science Direct and Scopus. So from these two data sources, we have collected or we downloaded around 123 research papers, and we applied some inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria on these papers. Like for example, the paper should be from January 2011 to December 2019. Studies should be only general articles only, and they should be related to Industry 4.0 barriers, and they should be related to manufacturing sector only. There were, of course, some exclusion criteria, like, for example, those studies which were not written in English, they were discarded or they were not included in the final stages. Those studies which were not relevant to Industry 4.0, they were also excluded. Conference proceedings, book chapters, different kind of reports, they were excluded and they were not part of the study as well. So in total, for the final stage, 38 studies were selected or shortlisted. And as you can see from 2014 and 2019, that the concept of Industry 4.0 is getting more and more popular. So that is why in the last year, 2019, we got the most number of publications, which was 16 over there. Now, from these 38 studies, we shortlisted the most frequent reported barriers, which were 8. Like, for example, the first one is the investment, also called as the financial resources, network security, job disruption, resistance to change, infrastructure, lack of training, lack of skill, and aging workforce. So these are the 8 factors, basically, which are barriers which were considered very important for hindering the implementation of Industry 4.0. The first one is the investment. Of course, when we are talking about the latest technology, it involves a lot of financial resources. So those companies, especially small and medium organizations, they do not have enough financial resources. So when they do not have enough financial resources, they are at a very high risk that they cannot implement Industry 4.0, and they cannot reap the benefits which are associated with the Industry 4.0 over there. The next one is the network security. Now, Industry 4.0, it requires the transfer of data between different departments, between different organizations. So when the data transfers from one department to another or from one organization to another, there are very high chances that the data security can be breached, or there is a very good opportunity for the hackers to steal the information, to steal the data, or to attack the organization security network over there. So organizations they have to come up with a very high security of their network when they are transferring the data from one department to another or from one organization to another organization. Another barrier which organizations are facing is the job disruption. Basically, job disruption means that when we are coming up with the new technologies or technologies, they may overcome or they may replace the humans as well. Okay, so in the future, the labor market, the demographic of the labor market may change. So this can also create a job disruption, which can be one of the reasons that organizations, they fail to basically cope up with this problem. Many organizations, they will face the problem of resistance to change as well, because of employees, they do not want to change their daily whatever they are doing, whatever is the scope of the job, because the coming up of the new technology, the job scope may change. So the organizations can face a very high resistance when it comes to the implementation of technology, especially when the organizations, they involve more old people rather than the young people over there, because it's very difficult for them to adopt to the new technology. The next problem is the infrastructure. Okay, because now we are dealing with the 4G, and organizations now, they are paying intention for they are paying you can say their attention is more towards the 5G as well, and many organizations are working for the 6G as well. So there should be a very strong infrastructure available. Now again, when we talk about the infrastructure, it also requires a lot of financial resources. So many organizations do not have a proper infrastructure, or they do not have financial resources to invest into infrastructure. So it is one of the, again, very important barriers, which is basically creating a problem for the different organizations when it comes to the implementation of Industry 4.0. Lack of training, of course, because many new technologies are coming up. So it's very important for the organizations to develop their internal capabilities, and how they can develop their internal capabilities is by providing more and more training, and by investing more into the people skill to improve the skills of the people, so that employees are trained, and when they are trained, they can properly help the organization to implement Industry 4.0. The next one is again related to the trainings, that many organizations, they face a problem that their employees do not have the skills. So when they do not have the skills, it's very difficult for the organizations to implement Industry 4.0. So organizations, what they have to do is that they have to invest more, so that their organizations, their employees have more training, they have more skills towards the implementation of Industry 4.0. And once more and more employees are trained, it becomes easier for the organizations to implement Industry 4.0 concepts into their organization. Aging workforce is another one of the important barriers, because with the increase of the lifespan, with the increase in the quality of the medicines, quality of the medical supplies over there, the lifespan is increasing. So when the lifespan is increasing, more organizations now, they have old age employees with them. So when it comes to the old age employees, it becomes difficult for them to adopt the new technology. So when it becomes difficult for them to adopt to the new technology, again, they become resistance to change in that organization. So aging workforce is also one of the reasons that why organizations, they are unable to implement Industry 4.0. So to conclude, this study basically focused on the barriers of Industry 4.0 for the manufacturing sector when it comes to the adoption of Industry 4.0. So we provided a list of 8 significant and most frequently reported barriers in the literature, which are quite significant for the manufacturing sector. This study was conducted basically in University Tunku Abdul Rahman, and financial support was also provided by University Tunku Abdul Rahman. With this, I have come to the end of this presentation. I would like to thank you all for listening to me.
Mubashar for the presentation. So now I'm opening the audience for Q&A. Please type your question in the live Q&A section, and I'll read to Dr. Mubashar for him to respond to your question. Okay. So we wait for a few minutes, because I believe, like the previous session, it take a while for the audience to type in their question.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. While waiting for the question from the audience, maybe a quick question from me. Your research work, or the one that you presented, is focusing on the adoption and
Yeah.
the challenges by manufacturing sector into IR 4.0. So moving forward, what is going to be the best way forward to really excite the manufacturing sector to really adopt IR 4.0?
The main focus of this research is basically the aging workforce. as I have mentioned during my research as well, that now in many countries, including Malaysia as well, we have this concern of aging population. So when we have the aging population, these individuals may not be very familiar with the latest technologies like sensors, IoT, big data, all these kind of things. As we know that young researchers or young, you can say, employees, they're more familiar with these terms as compared to the old age. So if you look down the road, maybe after 15 or 20 years, every small or large organization will have these kind of technologies available over there. So if we do not train our aging workforce or we do not replace them at the moment, okay, it's going to create a problem for the companies to implement Industry 4.0 over there. So if they are unable to implement, it means that they will be left behind as compared to other countries. So if Malaysia really wants to, you can say, get the status of these developed countries, they have to implement these technologies, and to have or to implement these technologies, they have to focus more on this aging population problem and
Right.
how we can
Yeah.
train our employees to cope up with this problem in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mubashir. There's one question from Shafiq Ashraf. The question is, do you think cost can be one of the factors for an organization to resist uh, in investing new technology industry 4.0? How bad do you think that cost factors affect the decision?
Yeah, if you look at the first factor which you identified is the investment, especially for the small and medium organizations. And if you look at now, the situation has worsened due to this COVID-19. Many small organizations, they cannot survive because the business is not running as usual, so they are not generating money. So when they are not generating money, it means they do not have enough financial resources to train the employees to invest into the new technologies. So this COVID has really impacted this implementation of Industry 4.0 for many countries, and especially if we look at the Malaysian context, it has really hurt small enterprises. So it's going to be a very big challenge for the governments, okay, that how they can provide different incentives to these small organizations or enterprises to invest into the new technology and to train their employees in the future. So it will be a very negative impact. It will have a very negative impact for the small enterprises.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mubashir, for a
Thank you,
very
sir.
detailed explanation to the post question.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we should move now to the next presenter. Okay, the next presenter, the paper title, Factors Influencing Blockchain Adoption in Government Organization, a Proposed Framework. The authors for the paper are Nur Hafiza Hassan from UTM Malaysia, Nur Azaliah Abu Bakar, and Nur Azian Ma'ruf, also from UTM, Dr. Nur Shakira Aziz from UTP, Gantan Narayanan Sami, and also Miza Shazwani Kamaruzaman from UTM. So without any further ado, I pass to the presenter to proceed. Please.
Assalamualaikum to all participants for Iccoins Ps1. This is a conference for Iccoins 2020. My name is Nur Hafiza Hassan. I'm from University Technology Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Today I would like to present part of my my students and also our works in presenting an initial output covering on factors influencing blockchain adoption in government organization, which is this one is a proposed frameworks. Okay, table of contents of my presentation with the introduction, problem background, the objective, methodology, some of the output and some of the conclusion, and also my future works in here. Introduction. So now blockchain is currently being used by most of the organizations, and it has been introduced to most of us in, of course, blockchain. If you are familiar with it, we want to secure our applications. Therefore, blockchain is known as an evolving decentralized technology and distributed computing model, which is this one is underlying Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, blockchain has drawn attention to both studies and also its application is quite growing. This technology allows two parties to transact directly using duplicate any linked ledger called blockchains instead of relying on centralized intermediary. So certainly we want to secure our data through this kind of blockchain technologies. But this research will not be looking at the technical aspects because we can see that we are still evolving this kind of technology. So we are looking more on human social aspect of adoption of the blockchain in our organizations. So what happens in our government, blockchain government? Blockchain technologies has the potential to benefit the government and our society and can present the next step in the development of towards e-governments that in turn reduce cost and complexity, shared trust process, and any improved development of audit trials. And also blockchain technologies, of course, it's going to be facilitate our direct interaction between citizen and also give some administration works with our government administrator and tele government because we are now moving towards digital government in our current, of course, in our panel world, we can see that increasing transaction has happened within this pandemic in COVID-19 situations. And also, in order for the organizations to use the blockchain technologies, they should have this kind of element, what we call as trust. It's been studied by most of the researchers. Consumer perception of security have recently increased even in face of advance in security technology, and also, of course, trust become one of the issues, one of the things that you want to have before you can apply these blockchain technologies. Okay, for this study, I make it short in my slides presentation. Okay, for this study, we are using TOE, Technology Organization and Environment, where it's called as TOE. It's been widely used by most of the researchers to see the adoption of the technology in the organization. And therefore, this blockchain technology, we use this TOE. Okay, for the technology context include all the technology relevance. We want to see in terms of context of technology. We want to see in the context of organizations, where it refers to internal consideration within an organization, such as priority, experience, and so on. And we want to look into environmental context that includes the presence or absence of any technology service. Why? Because we want to apply this kind of blockchain technologies. Is the environments, are they ready yet or are not? So we want to investigate this kind of context. Problem background. Currently, there are researchers using TOE consideration, but not specifying trust as one of the significant factors in the organization for blockchain technology. So, in a result to organization not having a difficulty in blockchain adoption, it is a must to include trust in the organization to implement the blockchain adoption in government organization, because trust is vital, especially when it comes to any business process. Objective of the study of this paper, basically, we want to look at major effort in Malaysian government organization to stimulate the practice of blockchain adoption technology, focusing on the development of blockchain adoption. We want to see, we look at the blockchain leveraging or using TOE framework, where the model can be used as a guideline to assist government organization for any blockchain adoption in any business process. In this study, we have identified few factors based on researchers and also based on literature review that we have conducted, and we are summarizing in the table that we show you. Okay, so basically, this is identified factors that are related that we can do for technology blockchain adoption. The first one is top management support, OC, organizational culture, security objective, third-party perception. We look on the technology trust, performance expectation, inter-organizational trust, social influence, facilitating conditions, effort expectancy, these relations. So you can see here we have organizational issue, we have we look at the competitive, transparency, integrity, perceived benefit, complexity, and also compatibility. So from this one, from the factors that we identified, we transform it into the proposed conceptual model. Basically, all these factors, we are using all methodologies, which is a conventional methodology, which is traditional literature review. We use this one to identify the factors that we have, that I have already shown you just now, in order for influencing and blockchain innovation. But prior to our study that we have conducted, of course, our model is being verified by by doing preliminary investigation. We are conducting a preliminary investigation with three responders. Basically, two are from public sectors and one of them is private sectors. So our criteria choosing this kind of responders is basically they must be involved in blockchain uh, technologies or any sort kind of blockchain interest while doing their work. So therefore, we are conducting preliminary station. So an interview was conducted. This is unstructured interview was conducted to obtain feedback from these three interviewees on blockchain adoption with factors influencing blockchain adoption in government organization. Interview questions were asked to understand the respondents' demographic background, followed by blockchain technologies, and drill down to blockchain adoption using theory from work and trust in government organization especially. The interview session has been conducted with three respective people that are responsible for handling project on Berlin staging in their respective places I mentioned earlier on from my previous slides. Before we can proceed with our proposed factors, but of course when we show them this proposed conceptual model based on the literature review also, they agree that this TOE framework can be used to investigate the adoption of blockchains within within um, government organizations. So we have identified TOE, which is technology, organization, environment, and also trust, and we have come up with 11 hypotheses to validate this kind of model. Basically, this is finalized factors. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 factors that we shows in this slide. So we show in this kind of adoption model to study our blockchain adoption. All right. Okay. Finally, basically, this is our initial work before we can proceed with collecting real data with a government agency. As for now, we are focusing on one of the many that are widely implemented blockchain technologies lah. All right. So blockchain. Therefore, our final output is the what I showed you just now is the proposed conceptual model, which is have been verified by the three respondents interviews, and we are going to follow up with real data collection. Thank you so much.
Fiza Hassan for the presentation. Without any further ado, I'd like to open the floor for Q&A session. So you may type your question. Okay, so there's one question from Shafiq Ashraf Muhammad Noor. The question is, do you think lack of exposure to blockchain technology in most government ministries and agencies could be one of the factors affecting the adoption? What roles do ministries and agencies need to play? And do you think Mampu can do anything better to close the gap? So I pass to you.
All right. Okay. Thank you for the question. I think before that, I would like to sorry for the video. I don't know why it's not moving. Basically, the questions mentioned that lack of exposure to the blockchain organization. Yes, when we conduct the interview with the three respondents, I think one of them is from Mampu. Uh, they also mentioned that the awareness, the exposure. I mean the awareness lah, among the government people, they are not aware about the blockchain because the top management asked them to do so, so they just follow the things that underpinned by the blockchain itself. So I think the other one is talking about how Mampu can do something about it. All right. So currently, I'm also working with one of the organizations that we are trying to create one of the things awareness and build up some guideline when we propose when we implement this blockchain technology in that particular organization. I think that's their road forwards is their have their pathway, their I mean the roadway to build a blockchain as part of the part of their making process lah. Okay, so Mampu can yes can play a role in that particular things.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, well, thank you, Dr. Hafizah, for the answer. But I think towards the end, I think we have what we call intermittent kind of. Uh, we are not able to hear you well towards the end. But in a
Oh,
way, yeah. So perhaps maybe 1 or 2 minutes you can recap back. Yeah. I'm not sure it's only me or the whole audience, but for me, I'm not able to hear you well towards the end. So maybe 1 or 2 minutes just to summarize what is going to be the role to be played by all the parties involved.
all the parties involved as university as academicians we but not me my colleagues from UTM also have been involved in creating a roadmap in blockchain technology with the government agencies, and also Mampu can support in the context of providing the policy to make sure that this can be strengthened together from the industry. Also they will support their knowledge and expertise from them.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Okay, thank you for the presentation and thank you for your response to the question. So now we'd like to move on to the last presenter. The title of the paper is Formulating Infrastructure Maturity Model for Disaster Management. The authors for this paper are Ms. Aliza Abdulatif from Uni10, Nur Habibah Arshad from UITM, and Nurjan Salika Janom from UITM2. So without any further ado, I pass to the presenter.
Assalamualaikum and a good day to all the presenters. For today, I will be presenting my papers called Formulating Infrastructure Maturity Model for Disaster Management. I am Aliza Abdul Latif from University Tenaga Nasional. My co-author is Nur Habibah Arshad and Nurjan Salika Jalum. The presentation outline of these papers basically is divided into 4 sections: the introduction, the methodology, the results, and the conclusion. For the introduction, basically this paper is focusing on a new definition for infrastructures. Basically is a definition tailored specifically for disaster management, where there is a need for the agency involved to assess and to identify the stages of improvement for the infrastructure. Infrastructure is actually a combination of 3 items: information, structure, and technology. Information exists in disaster, is utilized for coordination among participating disaster agencies. It helps to promote information sharing among agencies, which role and responsibility has been determined by authorities, which is indicated in Directive number 20. It also have or promote the control element, which is important to ensure the information is received by the right agency at the right time. The information is later distributed using certain technology to ensure fast communication for the agencies to have timely and reliable information. So as mentioned earlier, there is a need for the agency involved to be able to assess the stages of improvement for the infrastructures. So by monitoring the progress of the activities, it helps to ensure that the action and resources needed for the infrastructure can be allocated accordingly. This paper serves as motivation to develop a maturity model to be utilized as a tool to ensure continuous evaluation and comparison which is used to help decision making for agencies involved in disaster. So maturity model is developed for disaster management, which is used to assess processes or practices that relates to infrastructure usage. And a model is typically built with a certain number of maturity level, which is used to represent the stages that can start from a higher stage to a low one. And it's using the stage model principle where required that all element in one level is achieved before we can move to the next level. So this study aim to define a maturity model to assess infrastructure required throughout the entire stages of disaster management. And the model aims to assist any disaster agencies to understand infrastructure use in facilitating the activities that happen during a disaster. So the aim is to have a better coordination and communication, and the model can be served or used as a control as well. For the method used in the research is using quantitative or a survey. It includes data collection from selected agencies to obtain the measure of difficulty. Then the next stage is to obtain the maturity level, and the last one is to understand the maturity level produced. So the measure of difficulty and maturity level were produced by using Rush algorithm. So it obtain the standard errors, the in-feed, out-feed of each item, and later HCA is chosen to generate a series of models with clusters that have been determined by the research. For the result, the data is being distributed to respondents actively involved in disasters, and then it was analyzed using Rush algorithm using step 2. Then the next stage is to obtain the measure of difficulty, the logic value, the in-feed and the out-feed, as well as the standard errors. And then using HCA to determine the construct of each level. And at the end, a conceptual model with 5 levels is produced. So for the first step, step 1, the data is being collected from electricity company and selected disaster agencies. So the respondent was selected based on their involvement in prior disaster that happened to the electricity company, and also according to the directive number 20. So each agency will have different access to infrastructures, and the data was also analyzed by studying the descriptive statistics and used to summarize the data, and also to make sense or to understand the raw data collected during the research. The step 2 is to obtain measure of difficulty. So here the WinStep software is used to obtain item calibration. The item were coded according to the construct and indicators label is shown in table 3. So Rush model using WinStep software was used to analyze the questionnaires by revealing the ability and attitude of respondent. So 4 output statistics were produced: the logic errors, logic values, standard errors, in-feed and out-feed of each item. Step 3 is basically the construct of the each level of maturity level is being determined using clustering method or HCA in SPSS 21. The maturity model is organized into domain, then the processes with specific category. As for this study, the study adopted 5 levels, which were following the famous CMMI maturity model. So it's being set or being determined to use a 5 cluster. Okay, for the step 4, where we have to understand each of the maturity level. So level 1 is an early stage kind of ad hoc process, and 2 criteria is involved, which is task flow and technology. Level 2, we can see a better, stronger orientation towards better disaster management, where we can see element of governance and organization. Level 3 is more like a paradigm shift to a more coordinated approach to all the agencies involved. Level 4 is more comprehensive and still focusing on coordination. And level 5 is more to sharing information and resources to all the stakeholders or the agencies involved. As a conclusion, based on the result of the previous research in maturity model development, this paper developed a theoretical model of infrastructure maturity model. And the aim of this model is to integrate strength of established maturity model and also the content of the infrastructure implementation in disaster management. This model aim and shall be used as an assessment tool for infrastructure maturity, information structure and technology that can be applied by any stakeholders that perform disaster activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aliza Abdul Latif, for the presentation. So we move to the next step, that is a Q&A by the audience. Okay, please post your question in the live Q&A section. Okay, there's one question from Mr. Dr. Muhammad Diaudin, Muhammad Sufyan. Does the infrastructure maturity model has process areas to reach the maturity as per CMMI? Okay.
Okay, so to answer the question, so the paper presented today basically is the earlier work. So it explained on the development on how to produce the maturity model. So in the later work, so basically I have able to produce a conceptual and later a finalized version of the infrastructure maturity model. And based on the papers, we do have 3 processes related to the disaster and another 7 indicators. So, and then for all those 10 elements, it's already been detailed out in level 1 to 5. So, if I think for now, it almost reflected as what CMMI have. So I have the 3 processes, and then I have the indicators, the 7 indicators, and all of those have a detailed activities on how to reach to all those level 1, 2, 3, and until 5.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Aliza. So,
Welcome.
okay. So, well, if there's no question for Dr. Aliza, I think we have a few more minutes to go through until 1:30. When I look back at the Q&A section, I can see many questions that yet to be answered by our presenter. And I would say, to be fair to everyone, the audience and also to the presenter, to really explain what have been presented earlier. So we are going to more or less recap back, revisit all the questions that had been posted earlier by the audience. So on my part, I'm going to go through all the questions. So perhaps we start with the first presenter. I think the first presenter asked, the first presenter, Miss Abir, the question is, how can you push forward your idea to the respective parties to make it happen? Please, I pass to you, Miss Abir.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Fazil. Yes, just to remind the audience about the topic, it was regarding social influence and the use of social media for environmental sustainability awareness in higher education institute. So, as I said before, this is actually a part of a bigger framework. So, actually, after getting the whole idea and empirically test the framework, we are going to have a set of recommendations and comments and solid results. So I guess after that we can push those ideas to those particular parties. As currently we are in part also of higher education institute and maybe in the future. So it will be easier for us also to pass our ideas and can be implemented later on to higher education institutes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Abel. Okay, now we move on to the second presenter because the second presenter, Ms. Lim, uh, have presented on the framework. I think the framework on a pervasive tool factors into the acceptance of pervasive tool. So can we bring Ms. Lim to the main stage? Is Ms. Lim still available? So if not, maybe we go on to the next presenter. Okay, Dr. Hafiza, if you are still available, Dr. Hafiza, we move first to you while waiting for Ms. Lim. Okay. Okay, yes. Thank you, Dr. Hafiza,
Sorry.
for still stay around. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a question by Shafiq Ashraf Muhammad Noor. Mampu has deployed Ethereum blockchain in their data center. Do you think that it is a better option for the government?
Okay. For that question, of course, with the current blockchain technology that have been emphasized to be used by the government, of course, that's been a good thing also. But I think with currently blockchain also have some issues with I'm not sure lah how far it goes, but some security issues that need to be look on also. But with a better policy guideline from the government, it should be a better way for them to move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Doc. Okay, there's also another question from. Uh, okay, let me double check. Okay. If you can read, there is another question because it seems now my screen is freeze, not able to look through to the rest of the question. But I believe there is a question from Dr. Diaudin to you. If you can really scroll.
Uh, yeah,
Is it?
I can scroll, but I'm sorry, my screen, I don't know, the chat seems like backward. So I have
Okay.
to read a mirror. It's like mirror. You mentioned the target population is, sorry, the sample size.
Oh, this one is the previous one. Okay, let me double check. Okay, based on the study, what has been done, the top factor affecting the adoption, since the audience are not able to see the whole slide. So, what are the top factor
Uh,
affecting the adoption of blockchain in the country?
because my study, our study is based on the TOE, technology, organizational, and also environment. So the top factor will be on the organizational itself lah. Basically, they require the top management to give some extra support, awareness, and so on. Most likely on human aspect. The technology is okay, environment is okay, but from the organizational aspect, that based on our study.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Doc, for your answer to the two questions. So,
Okay.
if Miss Lim is available, can we revisit the topic that have been presented earlier by Miss Lim? Okay, thank you, Miss Lim, for staying around. Okay, okay. There's one question. Actually, there are three questions because I think the audience are not able to really spend some time to really ask you after your presentation. So this question is from Muhammad Irfan
Okay.
Zainal Abidin. If let's say a statutory body in Malaysia dealing with education and training is keen, how can they further explore on this? How can they further explore on the your topic they have presented that is acceptance of pervasive tools in private university?
Okay, so right now it's looking into the intention of use. Okay, so after conduct the study and then we will get the results, we will know the results, and then after that we will create a prototype based on the requirement to test on the actual use. So if let's say in the future or any bodies or any education or training is keen, they can invest in their prototype perhaps. Yeah.
Okay. So the second question from Dr. Diaudin, you mentioned the target population is undergraduate student in the Klang Valley. Any specific target of sample size and the type of programs? So the question is,
There's no specific
yeah,
type of programs targeted. Okay, so I think it would be good to gather data from different programs as well as per your question just now to look into how does the factors affect between the different faculty. Okay, and sample size, the more that we can get, it will be better. Okay, we are targeting around like 500. The more, then there will be better. Yeah.
okay. I believe this is the last question to you from Muhammad Irfan Zainal Abidin. Why you limit your sample space to only private university?
Um, for the time being, we are focusing on okay, to collect the data, and definitely we will further extend it to public university in the future. Yeah.
Okay. So I believe we have covered all the questions that have been posted earlier by the audience. Uh, with that, I would like to thank all the presenters. I would like to thank all the audience who stay until the end. Somebody mentioned to me that our track is I think the uh, largest number of audience. That's good. So people stay until the end to ensure that we are able to gain benefit from the session. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to my co-chair, Dr. Noshakira, that has been helping me in order to moderate the session. Thank you to the hosts that have been helping us to ensure the smooth selling of the session. So I pass back to the organizer. Thank you, everyone. So please have an enjoyable lunch break. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we end our session for today. So the next para session will continue at 5 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, and sorry for any inconvenient caused from UTP side. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.